Hi, in this tutorial I'll try to explain how is it possible to create performance with multiple BlueARPs controlling chain on each BlueARP with a single virtual control like this box here. And along the way I'll explain a little bit one of my previous performances, The Rhythm of the Night, a famous dance track from the 90s, how I implemented it in FL Studio. So the basic idea is that for these multiple BlueARPs, I have this automation clip that controls the current chain parameter. And I have my master MIDI track, which goes to all BlueARPs, and it kind of mimics live playing. This is automation for this control. I'll explain how this control goes to all of the BlueARPs. And first of all, let me open any BlueARP instance like this one. And if I go here to the surface and change this chain, you can see it's reflected here. And I can take any of the BlueARPs. It will do the same. So the idea is that on each BlueARP, chains have kind of the same pattern and they represent some parts of the song. For example, if I'm playing chain 1, it's the intro, and then chain 2, it's kind of the next part of the song. And chain 3 is, it's kind of the verse, as I remember. Chain 4, we have this flute thrill edit. And this is probably the chorus, I don't remember exactly. And somewhere higher we have fills, drum fills. Like this one with a cymbal. So let's explain how it works. First of all the controls you add here, and we'll now focus just on this one, chain for all BlueARPs. On the map tab, they get exposed as these red dots as the outputs. And we can see chain for all BlueARPs. And it goes to the input current chain for each BlueARP. And one thing we have to do to make these inputs appear, we have to right-click, go to parameters, and this is all of the parameters that BlueARP has. May look intimidating, but here we need just the first ones. Current chain, it's parameter number 12. And also, as you can see, we have exposed ARP state. This is on, off, through, and some other values. Latch and master transpose. But now we need just current chain. So we expose it, and once we done it, this current chain is linked to current chain output from the surface, and this is the way it works. Other things here, like this formula converters, it's because this checkbox gives just like 0 and 127 between minimum and maximum values, and we need to set our ARP to on or off, and if we connect them straight, it will be off, and this last value, which we do not want. This is the way it works with a patcher. It's fine, but the issue with this approach is when I want to hear just a single BlueARP, I cannot do this easily because all this thing works like a big single instrument. So I'm hearing everything. And to mitigate that, I had to do this complicated setup, these checkboxes, which can mute all the BlueARPs. And you can see all them will have ARP state set to off, except the bass, which I didn't uncheck. It stayed checked. And only now I can hear just the bass. So quite tricky. One side note here, FL Studio has the thing called dashboard that in theory could help us exactly with what we need. But you see, it has kind of ancient interface, and I remember I used it years before. It had some issues, but it did the job. Like you could add here a digits control, and you could directly link it to BlueARP chain parameters as the internal controller. It doesn't work anymore. Recently, I found another way to do the same, because instead of patcher, I'd prefer a straight approach when I have all my BlueARPs and synths, just like regular instruments. And now we'll try to set this up from scratch. It will take some time, but let's do this. So first, let's say we have two BlueARPs and we need to control two instances of synth1. And let me make it nice right away. I usually make BlueARP apparently blue, not too intense, like this. And then I want synth1, two instances of synth1. Let me call it synth1 bass and synth1 ARP. Again, let's color code them to something like this, for example. Then for the bass, I want to load the sound I already have. Yeah, this will be our bass, and our ARP super saw simple sound. Make the bass a bit quieter. Okay. Last but not least, we need to add MIDI out plugin. I'm always struggling to find it in the list. Here we go, MIDI out. I usually call it master. Make it bright yellow, like this. Move it to the top. And now the most important part. We need to connect all of them together. So my master will be track number 10. This is the arbitrary number. Just make sure this port number is not used by any hardware synth. In my case, I have the rule that from 1 to 9, it's all hardware synths. I don't have many. And from 10 and on, it's kind of the virtual ports I can use for this kind of routing. So here we send out nodes to port number 10. Next, each BlueARP should receive from port number 10 and send out to some other port. Here it will be 11, because the synth1 will receive nodes from port 11. So from that BlueARP. And I like to keep it logical, like master on the top, then BlueARP a synth, another BlueARP, another synth. So this second BlueARP again receives from port number 10 and sends out to port number 12, because 11 is already occupied. And this next synth1 receives from port number 12. So our setup is complete, and now we should hear both the bass and the ARP if I play the master track. Nothing spectacular, because we didn't pick up some musical pattern for the bass. So let's let it be this one here. Okay. And for the ARP, let's select something musical. For example, this one, program 37. And let's make it higher in octave. Okay. Now if we play master, we hear both of them. And the nice thing about this kind of setup, if I open just an individual BlueARP, I'm listening to just this BlueARP and the synth it controls, not the entire performance. And this is another BlueARP. And if I open the synth, I can play the synth without arpeggiation. The thing that is not possible with the patcher approach. And now the hardest part, we need to control chain parameter in both of these BlueARPs with one virtual control. It's easy with a physical control, I can just assign it, but with a virtual control it's a bit more tricky, and I'll explain some tricks we can do here to make it work. So first let's add patcher. Again, let's move it to the top, place it over the master, and to the surface. First of all, we need to add some virtual control. I like this one called digits. We can make it bigger and we can rename it, call it chain. Then we need to adjust the maximum value, which will be 8 in our case. It should match this number of chains in all BlueARPs. Next, we have already this chain parameter exposed. And next, we have to add MIDI out plugin here. Here we go. Disconnect it from FL Studio. And let's configure some controller. So this we can call it chain as well. Pick up some CC number. Doesn't matter actually. Let me use number 10, for example, and channel 1. So now if I rotate this control, it sends kind of this CC number to port 0, but since we don't have anything connected here, nothing happens. And first of all, I want this CC to be controlled by this virtual controller. And first we need to right-click and select Activate. And what it does, it exposes this input parameter to the outside, so we can connect it to something. And we connect this chain from our surface to our CC in MIDI out. And now let's check if it works. If we change this parameter, it gets adjusted here. This is exactly what we need. Then we need somehow make FL to understand this CC as a message from the external controller that can automate some other parameters. And unfortunately, if you use virtual ports for that, FL Studio doesn't understand that. So if I send it out to some port like port number 15, which is not used by the hardware, and then try to automate something from the input 15, it will not work. So we need to trick FL Studio and to make it think that the change comes like from the external hardware. And for that, we need a loopback MIDI driver. It's quite easy to find. You need just to Google loopback MIDI, and this will be one of the first things you find. Like loop MIDI, Tobias. I can't read this, but yeah, we need this one. Since you install it, it auto starts with Windows. You don't need to change anything here. Just press this plus button to add port, as many ports as you need, and they will appear as hardware kind of MIDI in and out ports in your FL Studio. So I can see both of them here as the input and as the output. So I decided to make it number 9. I enabled both of them. So now what happens if FL Studio sends anything to the output port number 9? It is mirrored immediately to the input port number 9. And we're gonna use this. So what we need to do here is to send this MIDI out to port number 9. And first, we right-click on this to FL Studio element, go to Events, and check MIDI port number 9. And we can see the green dot appears here. So when we connect this MIDI output to this green dot, everything generated by this MIDI out, and in this case it's our CC number 10, it gets immediately sent to MIDI port number 9. And as we have loopback, it will immediately come from the MIDI input port number 9. And this is our main trick. And next, and the last thing we have to do is to automate the current chain parameter. And we need to automate it manually because I don't know how to do this automatically. So we set it to port number 9, channel 1, and controller number 10, because we used CC10 there. Click Accept. We can already try to check if it works. So yeah, bingo, it works. The same we need to repeat for our second BlueARP. And one trick here is that when we link to controller, port number 9, channel 1, CC10, we need to make sure this remove conflicts is unchecked, because if it's checked, it will kind of reset the previous assignment. And it is red because we have conflicts here. Conflicts mean that the single CC is assigned to multiple parameters, but this is not a problem in our case because this is exactly what we want. So we click Accept, and now we should have both chains in our BlueARPs automated by the same virtual control. And now, last but not least, the thing that was counterintuitive to me, we want to automate this chain value box. And to do this, we need to activate it as the input first, because otherwise it's not possible. So we select Activate. Now it appears here as the input, and we don't need to connect it anywhere, but we right-click this dot and choose Create Automation Clip. And now we have automation clip for our controller. And we can change the chain for different parts of our song. And usually what I do here, I set this snap to grid to half of the beat, and here we need to select hold because we want stepwise changes, not the gradual ones. And because we have a loopback and it may cause some additional delays, we need our change to happen a bit beforehand. So half of the beat earlier works fine because our chain quantize is quarter notes, it's the whole beats. So let's see how it works. So you can see chain 1 here, chain 3 here, and if I want it to be chain 2, I'm just adjusting it a little bit. And here it will be chain 3. Unfortunately, I don't know the way to make it stepwise. Maybe it's possible if you know, just you may write it in the comments, but this way it works fine for me as well. Finally, when you create kind of complicated performance, each of your chains will correspond to some parts of the song. And now I can show you a bit more complicated project that I will release soon. It has vocals extracted from the original track. Here we have the same kind of mapping. The only difference is that we use CC number 12. It goes out to port number 9, and then it automates all the chain controls for the BlueARP, and we can see on the last tweaked, it's port number 9, channel 1, CC 12. And if I change this box on the surface, all the chains get changed like this. And we have this automation line for the whole song. And you can see I use this naming. For example, my chain 1 is intro with hi-hats, chain 2 is intro A. It's kind of intro, has several patterns. Intro B, then the verse goes, then the verse fill into the chorus. Let's check the bass. Again, intro hats, intro A, intro B, chorus, chorus fill. Maybe I didn't name them to the end, but you get the idea. So all your chains should be aligned. And this way you can create complicated performances with BlueARP without losing the ability to hear individual parts. For example, here we can check just the piano. Yeah, or we can hear just the bass. This track will be released soon. It's another cover for the famous 90s dance track, and if it's already released, check the description, it's probably there. So, hope this is helpful if you use BlueARP for kind of complicated performances. And thanks for watching, and have fun with BlueARP, and see you next time.